Hi there. It's Kamala Harris, the nominee for president. Well, sort of. Anyway, I do not approve this message.
Kamala Harris is inspiring and very capable. The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented cross borders criminals. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross a border without documentation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid. What people
Yes. Yes.
to reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bombers, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
So for people out there who like their insurance, well, they don't get to keep it.
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
And now from Times Square, it's That Kevin Show.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media.
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. But we don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. And tonight, America First versus Cackling Kamala. J. Hogan Gidley. Christmas in July for some starving children, Paul Jacobs. Kamala's speechwriter, Oliver Bartholomew, joins us. Sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee. And network news anchors, not a parody. And in the spotlight, it's Carrie Musgrave. And now, from Times Square, where he was once again filled with sadness at being left off this year's Team USA. Not because he wanted to represent America, nope. He just wanted a free trip to Paris to meet Celine Dion. Here's the...
Well, you know, one of the things that I'm not going to lie, Dave's not telling the truth there. I would have taken a free trip to Paris easily. And to meet Celine Dion would have been beyond the pale in terms of cool, incredible. One of the world's greatest voices. And just to see, and I don't know if you watched the opening ceremonies. I haven't been too into the Olympics in recent years, but when they said that they were going to have it in Paris, and I love Paris, my bride loves Paris, what's not to love? And I didn't know that Celine was going to be there. And then all of a sudden, she's breaking out from the Eiffel Tower, and just to get her voice and body to cooperate, to sing in the damp cold and to belt out that Edith Piaf classic was just one of the most gorgeous things. If you've not seen it, go over to YouTube and watch it, or the Peacock channel or whatever. But what an astounding opening. And I'm hopeful that there's going to be great moments. I've been a little, off on the Olympics in recent cycles, just because I don't want to see, male weightlifters competing in the women's weightlifting division. And we had that a couple of times back. I think there's going to be less of that this go around. And I'm hoping there will be even less of it when it comes to LA in 4 years. But what an interesting opening up the Seine River. The whole of the world is watching as it's just downpouring on all the teams that are coming in on those boats. But anyway, the world is now engaged in that competition. And there was more than one reference to needing to bring peace into the world. There was more than one reference in hoping that the world would find peace. That, of course, I think is on the table in this entire next American election. So we're going to talk about the new Democratic nominee tonight. We're not going to avoid that by a long shot. And the reason that we need to is because Kamala Harris's people are already trying to gaslight you on things that she said that they're trying to tell you she didn't say. The first thing they came out with right away, because they know how vulnerable Biden and Harris have been on the southern border, they tried to say, well, she really wasn't technically the border czar. Technically, there's not a border czar, so she wasn't technically the border czar. So you can't say that she was technically the border. Well, nobody's saying that technically she was a czar and had absolute control over the border. But the same networks that were saying that she's not technically the border czar also all said back 2 years ago that she had become, in essence, the border czar, and they all called her the point person on the origins of the migrant problem coming to the southern border. That's a fancy way of saying that they are in they're in deep trouble, and they need help on the southern border. So So that's kind of interesting in and of itself. Anyway, the next thing that they have moved to is, and I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but they are now starting to say that she's now in favor of fracking. She's now suddenly mysteriously had to come to Jesus about American domestic energy and how she's not so much against it anymore. But she's been against it for the last 4 years, and she was a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. And she helped get that through. And here's the thing. Voters in Pennsylvania and in Ohio and in Michigan and in Minnesota and in Colorado and places where American energy really counts for something, that has been an issue for them for the last several years. And it is not going away just because she's like suddenly trying to say, oh, I didn't have really a problem with it. I don't know. I think it was okay. No, you cost jobs, lady. You helped Joe Biden kill the Keystone Pipeline. You don't get to come back now and say suddenly I'm in favor of American energy now. Now that my vote tally looks terrible in states that have domestic drilling. Speaking of domestic drilling, I'm so proud to have this broadcast sponsored by oilfacts.com. You want to see just how extreme AOC and Kamala Harris have been on banning American energy in the last number of years? Go to oilfacts.com and see for yourself. And then recommend oilfacts.com to every single friend of yours that you have that is going to be caught up in this nonsense, this gaslighting of the election in this year. It's going to happen. They're going to do it. All right. Tonight is would be my mother's birthday if she was still with us. God rest her soul. Mom, I miss you tonight, and I'm thankful that you poured into my life to the degree that you did. And I wish you could see your grandbabies, but it's going to be some other time when that takes place. And I also want to say this in honor of my mom and in honor of the children that are hungry in Central America and Haiti tonight. We have a match night underway. Every child that we feed on tonight's show at 855-349-4673, we have a donor who's going to match every single child we can feed tonight. So I'm going to boldly ask you to help us with seeing how many children we can get fed. 855-349-4673. You can also give online directly at instagood.org. Instagood. It's like doing instant good, but Insta good, or Instagram if you're with social media, but instagood.org. Or you can just text my name, Kevin, to 93999. Text Kevin to 93999, and they'll shoot you back a link that you can give online through as well. But any one of those will get you to tonight. And every child we feed tonight for the next year, it costs $80 to feed a child for a full year. That's 700 meals that you're giving them. 700 times they will eat in the next year, twice a day, every day for the next year, more than 700 for that $80 gift. And tonight, every time you feed a child, another child's going to be fed. So if you give a gift of $240 tonight, you're going to feed 6 kids for the next year, 700 plus meals each. 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673. It is match night. Every gift being matched that comes in. 855-349-4673, instagood.org. When we come back, Hogan Gidley will chat with me about where the election goes from here. I'm Kevin McCullough. Super glad you're with us. Coming right back.
From New York, it's That Kevin Show.
See, I knew it.
Come on, Kev. What's a few classified documents between friends?
I told you all the time. I knew it. I knew he had some too.
Here he is. That Kevin McCullough.
And welcome back from Times Square. Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show. Glad to have you with us, and glad to welcome back Hogan Gidley, who was on with us a couple of Saturdays ago, but unless you were just listening by way of radio, you didn't get it. Because that night on TV, all of the channels, including Salem News Channel, were preempted by the assassination attempt on Donald J. Trump. And the crazy weird 9-10 days that followed that, I have to say, I think it's the strangest, most unique stretch of political days in a row I've ever seen. And I've been following elections since the 84 nomination of Reagan. So it goes back a ways. But here to discuss is J. Hogan Gidley. Hogan, we haven't spoken since. In fact, you were scheduled to be on with me that night. And I think you were sad because Tim McGraw was going to be on as our music artist. But the assassination, the convention, I'm staying in, I'm driving a Dodge Stratus, to then Biden getting out, and kind of the force feeding of endorsements to Kamala Harris. I don't even know where to begin, but let's start with the assassination. Where were you and how did it come down for you at that moment?
Yeah, I was actually watching on television, various news programs, but I flipped away for a moment and I got a text from an office holder in another state who said, "Shots fired." And I thought to myself, it was a euphemism for someone attacking that person on Twitter. So I immediately went to the person's Twitter page. I started looking and I was like, wait a minute. Did someone go after this person? Did someone say something nasty or whatever? I couldn't find it. Then a few minutes went by, a few seconds went by. My mother called me and I didn't take the call because I was trying to figure out what was going on. And then all of a sudden on Twitter, I saw what was happening. And I remember when I turned on the television, the first image I saw was a podium, people piled on Donald Trump. Then they replayed it. And what I saw from the replay was him stand up and start to walk, but he had his MAGA hat. He was holding his red hat, that famous iconic hat, up against his chest. So all I saw against the white shirt, I thought that was blood. And I immediately just kind of lost it for a second. And then as they replayed it, being an avid hunter and a shooter, I kind of saw what was going on and I had my own little thoughts there, but I watched him. He went down on his own accord. He put himself on the ground. And when he did that on the replay, I thought, okay, I think he's okay. And then, of course, when he stood up in that iconic shot, you want to talk about a leader and a legend. When he stood up and put that clenched fist in the air and screamed out, "Fight, fight, fight," it wasn't just, to let people there know he was okay. He had the wherewithal and the understanding that in that tumultuous moment, he had to let the world know, I'm okay. And we're here to fight, and we're going to keep this thing going. I'm blown away. I'm humbled by what this man has gone through, attacking his friends, his family, him personally, his businesses, his associates, everybody else. In the wake of Donald Trump's political ascension, has been targeted and attacked. And now they literally tried to assassinate, and by they, I mean this particular shooter tried to assassinate the president of the United States. And then a few days later, they politically assassinate Joe Biden. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is really remarkable that the party that has been saying that Donald Trump poses a threat to democracy basically did away with all democracy in getting to their nominee is going to be one of the undercurrents of the rest of this election for sure. I want to go back to that picture, though. I wrote an entire column about that New York Times reporter or whoever took that shot, grabbing that, and the optical illusion of where his fist is raised, and it looks like he's holding the string of the flag that's flying, many hundreds of feet above him. But it's just the whole thing. It's raising Old Glory on Iwo Jima. It's the towers coming down in Lower Manhattan. It is iconic. It will never not be a piece now of American iconography, and it really did capture the moment in such a stark way. I want to move to the convention because Hogan, I've been at many of these. I've seen many of them up close. I did not think that the McCain or Romney conventions were particularly effective. I thought George W. Bush coming back after 9/11, of course, kind of was tailor-made for what he wanted to do in New York City, et cetera. But in terms of your average political convention, I thought this thing was so much different by way of crescendo and getting to the maximum point of impact. And I will tell you, it was fun to have the superstars, the Hulk Hogans and Kid Rock and all the rest of them. It was fun to have them. They didn't move people. The everyday stories of everyday people, those connected emotionally, those jumped out of the television screens into people's hearts. And I've never seen anything that effective put together before. What was your thought?
Yeah, I haven't. Real quick, though, about that image. I don't think there's a more iconic political image since George Bush stood on that thing with the bullhorn and said the people who brought these towers down will hear us all soon. I can't think of one. But as far as the convention is concerned, you're right. I've been to many of these. I was blown away at the unity of it. It was so unified. You could tell a lot because of the stars they had up there. When Amber Rose got up there, I got a lot of people in the box I was in saying, "Who is this?" And I was like, don't ask, just you Google it. I don't have time to explain it. You just go figure it out. And then the president of the Teamsters Union, Hulk Hogan, as you mentioned, and
all of his
Dana
political
White,
opponents, everybody that ran against him in 16, Rubio, Cruz, everybody that ran against him in 2024.
So trying to expand that tent and show people we are a party of inclusion, and having the mothers up there who couldn't make ends meet, the mother who lost their children to fentanyl overdoses coming in across the southern border. There was a woman up there screaming and crying that about her son who was killed in that Afghanistan at Abbey Gate, and Joe Biden didn't say anything apologetic at all. I mean, it was so heartwarming to see how the policies that this administration has really impacted the American people and how much they wanted a return to those policies from Donald Trump. It really was an exclamation point on what has been a 2-week stretch of incredibly good news for Donald Trump, when Republicans typically don't get 2 hours of good news.
Right. Well, let's go back to the end of the week now, because when the following weekend, when Joe Biden, after the campaign fiercely all week long after the Republican convention, not going to happen, not going to happen, not going to happen. It happened. And Kamala Harris is the heir apparent. And, immediately the Clintons come out with an endorsement. And then there's, 38 or 40 congressional people, elected leaders saying, but there were some interesting people that did not endorse. Obama did not endorse right away. There's others that did not immediate. And the real question will be, do they put her through as the nominee without basically any democratic process? And if so, does that disaffect the 14 million people that voted for Biden?
Well, remember, of that 14 million, 75% of Democrats said they didn't think Joe Biden should be at the top of the ticket. So they probably did exactly what they wanted them to do. And listen, when was the last time Democrats cared about the law or rules? They'll flip all that, turn it all on its head just to go ahead and get whatever they want done, because it's about gaining and maintaining political power. As far as Kamala Harris is concerned, I think she's going to be useful until she's not. And the chances of that happening at or before the convention are high, because Kamala Harris doesn't poll that well against Donald Trump either. And as more and more stuff begins to come out about her, no one wants this country to be California, not to mention the failures she had from the policy standpoint in the Biden administration, but previous. Remember, she ranked like 8th amongst black voters in the Democrat primary behind a fake Indian, Elizabeth Warren.
Well, a lot of that had to do with putting black men in prison.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show. Glad to have you with us on Salem News Channel and BizTV and 300 radio stations. My guest Hogan Gidley and I are talking about the rest of the race, and it's really what, Hogan, 65 days or something until the first ballots from Delaware and others can be cast. I mean, we're talking about a very truncated election cycle for whoever the Democrat nominee is. Do you think there's a remote chance that it's not Kamala Harris, given the allegiance of black women to getting out the vote and making sure that they vote every time? Because they are the one group in the Democratic Party, them and elderly people, they'll go out and vote every single time, rain, snow, whatever, they'll get there. Does she make it all the way through?
I don't know. I think there's absolutely a chance she doesn't, because look, if the precedent is set that your candidate can't win, so we'll just replace you, why wouldn't they just keep putting people up until they find a poll they like and just stick with that person?
But who is that? Who polls against Trump? Newsom doesn't. Michelle Obama doesn't.
Yeah, but look, they'll find somebody that the media can prop up. See, look, don't underestimate the media's power here.
That's true.
They literally removed a sitting president of the United States by talking to Democrats and pushing that message. You're telling me they can't prop up another candidate in just a few months' time with no real pushback, because they're going to outspend us 20-1 on television and telling us whoever it is, whether it be Kamala or Gavin or Gretchen, that they're not the best candidate ever, that they're putting country first and they came off the sidelines to save democracy in America. You can just see the script writing itself. It's so offensive on every level. But there's going to be a lot of lifetimes, more like 5 million lifetimes between now and November. A lot can happen. And so the Democrats are going to get it settled one way or the other in the next several weeks. And then we got a race. And it comes down to the blocking and tackling at the local level. This is clearly a race. It's going to have to do with turnout apparatus, poll watcher, poll worker, voter mobilization, voter registration, ballot chasing, ballot harvesting where legal. That's what this is about. And Democrats have typically been much better than Republicans at the nuts and bolts, the blocking and tackling needed to win elections. So regardless of the flying high after this convention and the string of good news stories and good cycles, we still have to understand it's a race we have to win. I mean, think about it like this. Donald Trump in a reelect, no president ever has gotten more votes in a reelect than their first election. He got 14 million more votes and lost. That's insane.
Yeah.
So
Obama got fewer votes. Bush got fewer votes. Clinton got fewer votes. Reagan got somewhere, I think, around the same number of votes.
Sure.
But I think it was technically still fewer. And yet Trump got millions more, which just, I mean, come on. That 81-year-old beat him. Come on.
Come on.
The
mail-in stuff isn't happening. It's going to kind of regress back to the norms, I think. But we still have to be prepared for how you actually do the things necessary.
I think between the courts deciding that a lot of those COVID protocols were unconstitutional and the fact that the GOP is sharpening its game on legal harvesting where it is legal, and that's something that Laura Trump has preached one end of the country to the other, that where Republicans are allowed to do it, they're going to do it as invigorated as the other side is. Of course, one thing to say, it's another thing to do it. But I am hopeful that a couple of those changes will affect that dynamic.
You hope so. Look, Wisconsin just passed the Supreme Court. A law came out of the Supreme Court that said you could have these unmonitored drop boxes everywhere. But that flies in direct, disagreement with settled state law. They don't even care. That's what I'm saying. They're just going to do these things. The Supreme Court largely being Democrat run in the state of Wisconsin. So again, it comes down to the legislatures have the backbones in these states to stand up and say, hold on a second. We're the ones who decide the time, manner, and place of election stuff. The courts don't, the rogue governors don't, attorneys general, et cetera. We fell for it in 2020. We're not going to fall for it again. They're going to have to step up. And there are a lot of
interesting. It is interesting in that I am watching the daily running average of the polls. And if you do it on Real Clear polls, they also, for this date in history, they go back to 2020 and 2016. And it's important to note that Biden was up consistently 6 to 8 points in their real clear average. Hillary was up 2 to 3 points consistently in 2016, and Trump is ahead 3 to 7 points on average in the polling right now. So it is, I think there is, and I still think Trump polls lower than he shows. Like I always think that they're going to get a fewer responses for him than what are really represented out there. But when you see union heads, when you see former Democrats apologizing from the Republican National Convention stage, it is a remarkable time period. Hogan, always appreciate your insights. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Kevin.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
And welcome to Times Square, Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show. So glad to have you with us. And, you know, each year we have the opportunity to make a difference in ways that have done a lot of good. You may have heard me advocating for the redemption of slaves earlier in the year, and I have to say, on a goal of 104 slaves liberated, to see 115 done so is a wonderful thing. And that allows me an opportunity now to turn a corner and to talk about something else that is extremely, extremely important to my own heart. Some of you that have watched or listened to me for any length of time know that I have a son adopted from the nation of Haiti. He was adopted directly out of some of the most extreme poverty I've ever witnessed. I would say the most extreme poverty I've ever witnessed firsthand. And the ability to bring him to the States and give him medical care and to be able to feed him and watch him grow. And now as a fully functional adult living on his own, to see the joy that came about in his life because of a little bit of effort and a little bit of hard work in his life has been an immense sense of joy for me as his father, but also I think a real statement about what God can do in a life when he redeems them. And that's why I am so thrilled to be partnering for the next number of weeks with Food for the Poor, who is at work in Haiti and in other Central American countries, South American countries, and they are doing the very things that I was able to do with my son, feeding undernourished children, helping them receive spiritual instruction and other things. And that's why I want to introduce you to them, and I hope that you will join us on a journey. But Paul Jacobs is part of their team, and he joins us from Florida. Paul, it's always a pleasure to see you, and we've worked together in other venues for a long time, but so thrilled to be working together here.
Well, not only do we work together in other venues, but we've walked the communities, the cities, the homes. We've met the families in Haiti firsthand. Not only your experience with your son, but so many other children and so many other families that we were able to get a real understanding of the needs of these families. Hardworking families just like us, no different from you and I, other than they were living in a nation just about 91 minutes from our shores in South Florida. So it's great to be here to talk about those families and really get your audience to do some
when we're talking
work.
About poverty, particularly for young children, it disaffects them far worse than it does the adults that have made it to adulthood in the third world. But talk to me about what children that are severely undernourished are experiencing on a day-to-day basis.
Well, it's a child that is going through malnutrition on a level that we have not seen. Severe acute malnutrition, where a child from infancy, and we all know that for those of us that have had children, and you raise them in the first few stages of their life, first few years, it's so vitally important. But we're seeing children at the age of 18 months, 2 years old, that do not eat every day. Now, I understand you're saying just how in the world can a child in 18 months, 2 years old, not eat every day? The answer is that their parents do not have jobs. The parents are not working, and if they are working, they're maybe earning $1 or $2 a day. And some parents even have to select which child will eat that day based on their health conditions. It's a reality that we need to alleviate. The latest number right now that is coming from from our basically updates from our ministry partners on the ground in Haiti is 1.6 million. That's more than 10% of the population in severe brink of starvation in Haiti. Now, we're not looking to help 1.6 million. We want to start with the first 600 children, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, well, and it's very, very important, friends. And I just want to make this clear that if you jump on board right now, every gift that you give right now is going to be matched meal for meal for children that are not going to get food from any other source. There's not going to be another provider. There is no government program. There is no Medicare. There is no Medicaid in Haiti. There is no Social Security. There is nothing that takes care of the people that are in the poorest of the poor situations, with the exception of Food for the Poor, which is a Christ-centered ministry. And Paul, you work on the ground with one of I think, the most integral networks of relief that's going on anywhere in the world, and that is local pastors that know these families personally. They know which child is in the most danger, and they know how to get that food to them effectively.
In Haiti, we just celebrated our 38th anniversary working on the ground with the Haitian people, but more so, it's 38 years of working with the local church, pastors, local ministries. There are more than 13 points of distribution where we go into communities and we deliver aid to those families in those communities. But there are more than 2,000 aid points where these are churches and ministry partners, vetted partners that come to Food for the Poor to get help. And majority of those are local churches, pastors that are not only ministering the physical food that these children need, whether it be a community, a feeding center, or even a school that is run by a ministry program, but it is going to be delivered coupled with the gospel message as well.
It's so important. Friends, the phone number is 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673. You can also text my name, Kevin, to 93999 if you'd prefer to give that way. Text Kevin at 93999. Or you can go online to instagood.org. You want to make instant good happen? Go to instagood.org. That's my own URL. We're taking the gifts for Food for the Poor there. And friends, your 100% of your gift is going to go towards the application of what we're talking about. And if you go right now, it's going to be matched meal for meal. Paul, one of the things that I find amazing is that according to the sources that publish these statistics, there is enough food produced on planet Earth to feed every person on planet Earth more than 4.5 pounds of food every single day. But we still have pockets of extreme poverty, like we're talking about in Haiti, where the food hasn't gotten to yet. And so it's not an issue of there being enough for everyone to eat. The question is getting it to them in time before they die of starvation. And in addition to that, if you call right now at 855-349-4673, you're going to double the number of people that you reach for that same amount. So if you can give $240 right now, instead of reaching 3 children for the next year, you'll be feeding 6 for the coming year, all the food that they can eat, 2 meals per day for the coming year. It's going to make a huge difference in the lives of these kids that have been malnourished. We're talking about Food for the Poor. Go to instagood.org, instagood, INSTAGOOD.org, instagood.org, and give your gift right now. Or you can call 855-349-4673.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Hi there. It's Kamala Harris, the nominee for president. Well, sort of. Anyway, I do not approve this message.
Put in charge of the border.
Nope. She was in charge of reaching out to the South and Central American countries to stem the immigration.
She wasn't the border czar.
She was not actually the border czar.
She is not the border czar.
She was never border czar.
She was not the border czar.
Let's be very clear. There was no border czar.
President Biden put his vice president, Kamala Harris, in charge of one of his administration's growing challenges. She is now the point person on immigration.
Vice President Harris is now the Biden administration's point person
to oversee his administration's efforts to stem the flow of migrants.
Kamala Harris, the point person on immigration.
The point person in the effort to stop the flow of migrants.
Kamala Harris will lead the response to the border challenge.
Kamala Harris to lead the White House efforts to tackle migration challenges at the U.S.-Mexico border.
To take the lead on overseeing all of these efforts at the border.
Putting his vice president, Kamala Harris, in charge of this.
Her first big portfolio item.
To oversee solutions.
And I have confidence that she's going to do a good job in this role. I think President Biden made a good decision, a wise move.
And now from Times Square, it's That Kevin Show.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be That Donald show. But we don't have that, so we have That Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, Christmas in July for starving children that will die otherwise. Plus, Kamala's speechwriter, Oliver Bartholomew. Sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee and network news anchors, Not a Parody. And Casey Musgraves returns to the spotlight. And now, from Times Square, where he was secretly thought to be the sole cause of the worldwide Microsoft outage. Here's the Kevin! And see, Dave, that's where you overplayed your hand this time. You make up these wild stories about me, and none of them are true. And this one, I can guarantee you I had nothing to do with. Because there's not a single thing in my entire office or studio or home that runs off Microsoft. But I do feel bad for those people that still had Teams working. Teams are awful. I hate Teams. Teams are the worst meeting device ever devised, and yet, I don't know, companies seem to love them now anyway. But yeah, I had nothing to do with that. So you struck out on that one, pal. Big time. All right, let's get to the news. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. She's been on the campaign trail for less than 2 weeks, and Democratic frontrunner Kamala Harris, who has never once secured one electoral delegate for president, is already facing the harsh reality of the forever webs for past positions on policy. This week, her team tried to discount the idea that she was ever made the point person on the problem of illegal migration on the southern border, claiming she was never made the point person or even called border czar. It took a basement-dwelling homebody named Pajamas Joe to find about 82,000 hours of network news of her boss and media networks calling her both names on a daily basis. The Google search took almost 3 seconds to run. Chicago-based Democrats are sounding alarms ahead of next month's convention, claiming a possible surge in migrants during the Democrat Party's get-together in their fair city. One lawmaker was immediately shot upon being overheard to say, "Shouldn't be that big of an issue. The border czar will be here to help us through it." The lawmaker's body was then dumped in Pajama Joe's basement.
Netflix is announcing a $7 million donation to the Harris campaign. Assignment Desk Weekend thought you might like to know that Netflix is willing to use your subscription fees purely out of spite just to force you to listen to that cackle for the next 4 years if she gets elected. Thanks, Netflix. Not everyone on the left is happy about Kamala's fake nomination. One Democrat, congressman from North Carolina, who voted to condemn the border czar's, how to put this, ineffective policies at the border, was reportedly told to, and we quote, "Shut your yapper or we'll be having you dumped at Pajama Joe's basement as well." And finally, you know the leftist base of the Democratic Party is nervous when the New York Times is critical of the most progressive former senator. This week's New York Times asking Kamala Harris one of the most exceedingly embarrassing questions in modern history. The editorial board of the New York Times, which last endorsed a Republican for president somewhere between Abraham and Moses, actually asked the fake nominee to, quote, do better, end quote, than her predecessor when it comes to press conferences and taking questions. That's right. The paper of record is so worried that they had to formally ask Harris to do better than the man who had everything in writing, read the teleprompter quotes that he shouldn't have. He seldom followed the explicit list of outlets predetermined for him to ask questions of, before shaking hands with nobody while exiting the room. The Times is worried that Harris could do worse than that. Assignment Desk Weekend would like to second that formal request and also ask her to refrain from the use of the words unburdened, passage, school bus, significance, yellow, or time. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Calvin McCullough.
Bartholomew, and I'm 16 and a half years old, and I'm the speechwriter for Kamala Harris. My mommy and daddy say if you find a job you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. Good morning, Frank.
Yeah, hey, Oliver.
And my parents were right. Ever since I was little, I liked words. Writing words is fun, so I made writing words my job. Every politics person has a writer, like me, to make good words for them to say.
Space is exciting. Space, it affects us all. And it connects us all.
I got that idea when I was thinking about space and how big it is. Man, it's big. It's not all fun, though. Sometimes I have to write about bad stuff, like war.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
It's cool to see the words I've typed good actually get set on TV. It's fun. I like it. Once I thought it would be neat if Kamala wore a blue suit and told people she was wearing it because I like blue.
I'm a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
It's cool because the suit's blue and it's the color of the sky. Where do I get my ideas? From all over. One time I was on the school bus and I thought it would be neat if Kamala talked about the school bus. And who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right?
Who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right? Can you raise your hand if you love a yellow school bus, right?
I can't take all the credit, though. Me and Mr. Kamala are a team.
You know, like relay racing? You know, you race and someone passes the baton and then, right?
But she kind of is crazy or something. And she kind of scares me. And you can't fake that kind of performance.
Remember Venn diagrams, those 3 circles, right? And then let's just see where they overlap. I didn't help. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
You're either born with it or you're either not.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
It's quitting time. I need to get home in time for Blue. See you tomorrow, Frank.
See you later, Oliver.
And that time is every day.
The Babylon Bee bringing a little spark of funny to your weekend. Kevin McCullough, we've still got a great hour straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back, Kevin McCullough, Times Square. You know, we love to have fun, and we love to talk about the things that are going on in the news, but you also know that if you listen to me, I use a part of my platform all the time to try to impact the world around me and to make the world a better place. And that's why I'm so grateful for a partner like Food for the Poor that has been working in the poorest of the poor countries for 40 plus years, in some instances, 38 specifically in Haiti, which is the country of focus for me because that's where my adopted son is from. And the reason I adopted a child from Haiti was because of the extreme poverty I saw on multiple trips there, and I knew that I could make a difference in his life. Paul Jacobs is back with us. Paul, we're not asking people to adopt an orphan and to change their whole structure of how they live and all the rest of that. I mean, if they want to do that, I can point them in the direction of how that can happen. Right. But today we're talking about something much more practical, and that is getting food to children while they're starving so that they don't die. Real quickly, how does it work?
It's very simple. Food for the Poor for the past 42 plus years has worked hand in hand with countries, 15 countries, Latin America and the Caribbean, to set up systems and structures, programs, and basically a system for delivering aid to where it's needed most. In Haiti, we have been established for more than 38 years now. Just celebrated our 38th anniversary, going on to 39 years now, working hand in hand with pastors, local ministries, schools, hospital systems, feeding centers, throughout. Right now, there are more than 13 distribution centers across the country of Haiti. There are 2,210 distribution endpoints. Majority of those are local pastors and local churches. The systems and the structures are already set up. What we need is food. Yeah. We need your help to provide that food.
$80 will feed one child for this coming year, for the full year. That's over 700 meals, if you think about it. 2 meals a day for one child for the coming year, $80. You cannot do that. Paul, I cannot feed one of my children for a month for $80 in the New York tri-state area. It's too expensive. But for $80, you could feed one child. Now, I want to ask you, how many children would you like to help? Because to be honest, we've got a list of about 600 plus names of children that are going to die. They're going to perish if they don't receive food immediately, if they don't start receiving proper nutrition, carbohydrate, protein, the nutrients that they need for their body to recover from the malnutrition that they're experiencing. And that's what's in the Food for the Poor food services. But we can get that to them if you call right now, 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673. If you'd like to give online, you can just go to instagood.org. That's instagood, INSTA, like Instagram, but instagood, GOOD.org, instagood.org, and just give a gift online. It'll take you less than 2 minutes. I promise you to do it. You can do it on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer, whatever you have handy. Just go to instagood.org. It's a safe, secure website. We've set it up so you don't have anything to worry about. Instagood.org will be able to take care of you. But if you give a gift of $240 right now and in the next 10 minutes, it would normally feed 3 children for the next year. It's going to feed 6 if you call right now. If you make the gift now, we're going to make sure that we feed 6 children for $240 for the next year because of a matching challenge that's underway. So help us take advantage of that. 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673. Paul, you've got some audio from trips and travels to the region where you've been. Tell us what we're about to listen to.
Nirlan is a mother that, quite frankly, when we met her, and we cannot forget her because of her tremendous faith, her tremendous desperation in that faith, and how she realized that it was not going to be her efforts alone that is going to help her feed her children. She needed the help of someone that God would send in her path.
When you pray to God, what do you say to him about yourself and your family?
I ask God for strength and courage with my kids. I know God doesn't ever give any pain without relief. So I ask him to keep giving me strength to better raise my kids. Maybe put someone on my path that'll make a difference in my life.
Making a difference in her life by helping her feed her child. That's how simple this is. And friends, your gift right now at 855-349-4673 helps effectuate that. Paul, you were the one that had that conversation with her. You saw into her eyes. You saw into the world that she was living in at the moment. Talk to me about what she faces on a day-to-day basis.
You look around. First of all, she's living in what we would by definition call a home, but it was not. It was something far from it. It was a rusted shack made of rusted metal and rotten wood, a door that was tied by some rope, and of course it was scorchingly hot inside this home. And what was even more desperate was the look on her face, because she knew that that day there was no food for her children. She knew that her small children, if it wasn't for the interjection of someone whose compassion would say, here's how I can help, she wouldn't know how the next day without food would go. Her children are really everything to her. As a mom, as you listening right now, or watching us right now, you're a mom, you understand. As a parent, you understand how you would do anything to make sure that those children get that next meal, and make sure that they can have a future because of that next meal. And that's exactly what was going on with this beating heart of this mom, Nirlan, who just wanted to do anything to make sure she could feed her children.
Yeah. Friends, I am so honored to be working with Food for the Poor. Kevin McCullough, we've known of their work and partnered together in different ways for about 20 years. And this is a group of people that when you talk about really trying to impact the world and make it a better place, to make it more an equitable place where the poor can receive the help that they need. Food for the Poor has been laser focused on this, and I have to tell you, the integrity with which they run their operation, the effectiveness. I have been with them in Haiti and Jamaica and other places where I've seen the ghettos where we've built houses. I've seen the feeding centers where we've fed hundreds of children at a time. I've seen the water systems that we've installed in towns that had nothing but nasty, gross water sources, and to have within a year's time a brand new system to be able to bring clean drinking water and usable water for their cooking and other needs. It just is life-changing what Food for the Poor does in the lives of these people every single day. And that's why when they said, Kev, we need some help this year to make sure that children in Haiti eat during this very hot, very blistering summer, can you help us? I said, yes, absolutely. Let's do this. 855-349-4673. It's a very simple plan. There's about 600 kids that need food help this summer. Your gift of $80 will feed them for the next 12 months. But right now, if you call, an $80 gift will go twice as far. 2 kids will eat because of a matching challenge that's underway. But I need you to call right now, 855-349-4673. $240 would normally feed 3 children. Right now, it's going to feed 6 for the next year. Would you help us right this minute? 855-349-4673. You can also just text Kevin to 93999. Or you can go online to instagood.org, instagood.org. That's going to be able to allow you to give online, and you can do that right now. 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673. Kevin McCullough coming right back from Times Square. Stay with us.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us and thankful for those of you that have heard me discussing the issue of feeding hungry children this summer. You know, you may have some sweltering days where your air conditioning's not working the best, or you don't feel quite yourself because of the heat or the humidity. Have you ever been in the Caribbean in the middle of July and August and September and felt the sun there and what it can do? I have, on very rare occasions, been on missions trips in Haiti where I felt like I was going to be really physically sick for a long time because I wasn't up to the standard of the weather. But imagine being a small child without enough to eat and enduring that kind of turmoil. That's what we're dealing with in Haiti. And that's why Food for the Poor said, Kev, we've got 600 kids that we know the names of. We know where they are. We know who has contact with them by way of pastors in their communities. We need to get them food this summer. And Paul Jacobs is back with us from Food for the Poor. And Paul, you said, can you guys help? And I said, sure, let's do it. Let's go feed some kids and make sure that they have a good summer. But what are we exactly talking about? How bad is the poverty in Central America and in Haiti in particular?
Yeah. In Haiti in particular, you're talking about a number that is staggering. 1.6 million people on the brink of severe starvation. 1.6 million. To put that in context, that's 1 out of every 10 Haitian. 1 out of every 10 Haitians. And many of them are children, unfortunately, because those children who need the most nutrition at their just growing stages of their life. And it brings me back. You talk about these hot summer months, and I live in South Florida, and it is our two biggest projects.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. My two biggest projects is the air conditioning in the house and the tint on the family car. But it takes me back to a trip that we went to Haiti. It was a summer trip, and when we were there in a community of just about 3 hours outside of Port-au-Prince, I remember the ministry partner taking us to what she called a watering hole. And when we went to that watering hole, it literally was a mud wall that water trickled out of this hole for these children to collect in these buckets. And I thought I'd seen it all. And I thought I'd said to myself, this is as bad as it gets. It's the worst I've ever seen in all of my years traveling to Haiti. And then she took me to meet a mother. And this mom, in the back of her home, had a pot boiling. And at least I said to myself, there was some food. There was something that this mom had that she was able to provide for her children in this struggling community. And then in this clip you're about to hear, you'll find out what was in those pots.
I know we love to say that the Haitian people are resilient, and it's a quality that we praise so much, but it's just how much resilience can the same people put up with. And no child should ever know hunger, misery, pain. I see children crying. I hear moms telling me that they put their kids at bed at night crying because they're hungry. I've had a mom tell me that she boiled rocks because that gave her children hope that there was something on the stove when there was nothing there.
It was a sad day that day to realize that mother used that pot boiling with rocks just so that she could tell the children, just wait, it's not ready yet, in hopes that they would be there in their hunger and their weakness. They would fall asleep and she would have another day to figure out where she was going to provide that next meal. But that can change right now. Watching us right now, hearing our message right now, you are the difference maker. And moms like this, and many moms across Haiti.
855-349-4673 is the phone number, 855-349-4673. You can also just give online. Just go to instagood.org. Do some instant good immediately. Insta, INSTAGOOD, instagood.org, instagood.org, or call 855-349-4673. And Paul, I remember being on that trip with you, and that mud hole where the water source was. I'd never seen anything so filthy, and to know that this was the only water source for that community. But to go back a year later and to see what some of my listeners had done in the area with clean water being filtered for them, and to see that mom who had been boiling rocks the year before to be able to actually have a garden with some vegetables and some other things that had grown, the life transformation of an entire region because of Food for the Poor and people working together was just truly transformational.
You know, I wish I could. Every one of your audience members who give and make a donation to save lives, providing life-saving food. I wish I could charter a flight for you to go there like Kevin and I have gone and seen it firsthand.
Friends, it's so important. Please call 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673, or go to instagood.org. All one word, instagood.org.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, always glad to have you with us, and always thankful for those of you that help us change the world around us. It's one of the reasons why I set aside part of my my platform just specifically for this. I'm grateful that God lets me speak to the people that I get to speak to on a weekly basis in terms of social media and broadcast and stream and all the rest of it. But I want to use this platform to honor him and the people that he loves as well. And Paul Jacobs is back with us from Food for the Poor. And Paul, the scripture is pretty clear, and there's probably many people watching and listening tonight that are not what they would consider biblical believers. But you just need to know, friend, if that is one of you, that the scripture is very clear that God takes very seriously how we deal with children who are poor and who are hungry. And that is one of the reasons why we've committed to, in these hot summer months, say, hey, what can we do to help alleviate the pain with some of these children that are starving to death in Haiti? And Paul Jacobs, it's a timely situation because it's really, really bad where these kids are right now.
That's exactly right. You're talking about rising food costs in our community. That is causing us to make adjustments in our daily life. But when you're talking about a community where mothers and fathers, families are earning $1 or $2 a day, or at worst, they're going to local garbage dumps where other people have thrown away trash and foraging through those piles of trash just to find their children's next meal. These are the conditions that are happening on a daily basis. Now, with anyone could watch the news and see that there has been tremendous civil unrest, but it is still causing Food for the Poor to dig deeper with our ministry partners. We are still ministering to those families. We're still going to those communities, and we need your help because, quite frankly, while a lot of lines and a lot of opportunities and travelways and roads have been shut down, Food for the Poor still makes sure that we reach those communities in any which way we can, because regardless of what may be happening in the country, the government, or the economy, those families still need our help.
855-349-4673, 855-349-4673. Take a listen to this right here.
We walked into this wretched little shack. Inside, we saw a mother totally with her face showed every line of suffering possible of a mother who feels frustrated because she can't feed her children. She had 2 children in the shack with her. There was a 4-year-old who was actually eating a handful of rice, and the 7-year-old who was standing there looking very woefully at his little brother who was eating. And we said to the 7-year-old, "How come you're not eating also?" And he said to us, "Today, it's not my turn to eat." Can you imagine the pain on a mother to have to tell one of her children, "Today, it's not your turn to eat, perhaps tomorrow"? to have that complete food insecurity where you cannot plan even one day in advance for a meal for your children. That has to break a mother's heart.
I can't see any other way around it. Angel Aloma, the former executive director at Food for the Poor, and Paul Jacobs, too many times on Food for the Poor trips, you and others have looked right into the eyes of moms who have had to make that decision.
Vida, a mother that we met, Kevin, in Kadwa, Haiti, sitting there with her 2 small children, Kenya, 3 years old, and her little brother, just about 1, sharing from a metal bowl, not a big overheaping bowl of rice, but a few grains that was left over, anything that she could to give those small children something to put in their bellies, but it was not enough. And to look her in the eyes, to see that desperation, only to find out 1 year later, the pastor in that community made sure that when resources got into Kadwa, Haiti, that she was one of the very first to make sure that she partook of the food and the nourishment and her children were able to be fed. This is the transformation. This is the change. This is the alleviation of poverty that is taking place right now when your compassion meets a phone call or a click of a mouse or says yes to children and families who have heard no for far too long in places like Haiti.
Yeah. You can give online at a website called instagood.org, instagood.org. That's insta like instant and good, instagood.org. And you can give your gift. Friends, we have a unique opportunity for the next few minutes, and that is that it costs $80 to feed a child for a year through Food for the Poor. But if you give in the next 10 minutes, your gift is going to be doubled and twice as many children are going to be helped. So if you normally give a gift of $240 and say you want to give food for 3 children for the entire year, that's, by the way, 700 plus meals each. That's more than 2,100 meals that you're providing for that $240 amount, feeding 3 kids 2 meals a day for the next year. But right now, because of the match, that's going to turn into 6 children. So please call right now, 855-349-4673. But when that happens, the change that comes over, and Paul, speaking of our travels, I remember when we went to, I forget the name of the school, but it was one of the schools in one of the towns there in Haiti, and they had received one of the Food for the Poor clean watering systems. And if you asked any of the children at the schoolyard, you know, what does the water taste like? They get this big smile across their face and they say, "Mister, that's delicious water." And I don't know what water tasted like before, but that smile, that thankfulness, that gratitude for having water that was clean and able to be consumed was just overwhelming. And at the time, those children were being fed every day by Food for the Poor as well. And so, friends, right now, $80 will feed a child nutritious, needed food to help them survive this hot, sweltering summer in Haiti where there is not enough food. And that's a shame because there's more than enough food produced on planet Earth. We have so much food production on planet Earth that there's enough for more than 4.5 pounds worth of food to be consumed by every human being, infant to senior citizen. But the fact that there are children in Haiti and in some of the Caribbean and Latin American countries that do not have even enough to survive, that's unacceptable. And that's why it is so vital that right now you join us and make this gift. 855-349-4673. And for the next 10 minutes, every gift given is going to be matched. 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673.
Ready or not, we'll be right back.